Hello everybody, I'm the chess strategist, and today we're going to be going over some common chess traps that you must know if you want to get out of the beginning of stages of chess and just become an intermediate player. Now the first trap you're going to see over and over again, especially if you're it's like your first chess game or your second chess game, third, fourth, fifth. If you're just starting out, you're going to see this more than anything else, and we like to call it the wayward queen attack or the 4-move checkmate. Your opponent's going to take their bishop out to c4 like this. We'll play from black here so you can see it from the other side. And you just develop your knight casually, and then your opponent develops the queen. What are they aiming for? Well, obviously, they're aiming for this pawn, and they're threatening checkmate in one move, and you have to stop it. So here, there's a few different moves. There's a lot of different ways to stop your opponent from making an attack like this. One of them is you can play this move g6, which attacks the queen, and it also blocks the queen's attack on this pawn. You can also develop your queen to e7 like this, but I'd rather not do this because it blocks the development of this bishop. So this bishop's going to get stuck. So, g6, and the queen gets knocked away. And this is the kind of threat when your opponent makes it. It's very easy to parry, but you have to see it, because if you just make a regular move like d6, boom, it's checkmate and the game is lost. So when your opponent brings out their queen early, check for this pattern. It's always this f7 square. They're always going to attack this one. If you're playing as black, or you're playing as white, and the opponent attacks you like this, they're going to attack the f2 square. It's a symmetrical weakness. Alright, and this next trap is probably the second most common trap you're going to see as a beginner. This one happens all the time because everyone as a beginner loves to put their bishop on c4, and when you play knight f6 in the Italian, the opponents will almost always go for this move, knight to g5. And knight to g5 is really dangerous because, again, it plays off the theme of the weak f7 pawn. Your opponent is trying to attack it, and here, if they take with the knight, they actually get a fork on the rook and the queen. So they're trying to aim to take with the knight. So if you're playing as black here, you need to be able to parry this properly. That starts with d5, pawn takes, and don't go for knight d5. This is a bad move. And the reason why is this sneaky little move, knight takes f7. And you think, well, why would I want to do this? Because your king can take. But no, the queen's going to come out, and the piece you just gained, you're going to lose right back. And your king's going to be forced to go to a very weak square. And if you misstep here, you can get checkmated very quickly. One way that people commonly get checkmated is they step into the corner like this, and you can take with the bishop, and now the king has no escape, there's nothing to block, and this is going to be checkmate very quickly. This is checkmate right here. So, be careful. Instead of playing knight takes on d5 like this, you need to play knight to a5 over here, attacking the bishop. Alright, the next trap is another trap that white can play, and it's very beautiful. It doesn't happen in a lot of games, but when you start seeing these same moves pop up, you want to keep this trap in mind because it kind of comes out of nowhere. It just seems like you're developing your pieces, and then you're just checkmated. So it starts when black plays the not that move. When black plays the Philidor defense. The Philidor defense is after e4, e5, knight f3, black plays d6. White's going to play bishop c4 a lot of times, and black plays this move bishop to g4, pinning the knight. And you might think, oh, this pin is eternal, like the knight cannot move. But you're going to see in a moment here that this knight is more of a dangerous piece than it might seem. So white develops the knight, and black played a really slow move, g6. Just kind of lackadaisically making a move, not really focusing on development. And here is where white has a chance to make a brilliant move, an amazing move. Let's see if you can find it. And I've already given you a bit of a hint, but yeah, this move really just kind of, it doesn't make any sense when you look at it, but then when you really analyze the position, you'll see if you're able to find it, is knight takes e5. Now you might think, oh, there's blunders a knight. Oh, there's also blunders a queen. Well, still your roll then. If your opponent takes the knight, then you can win the bishop. So you're actually just winning a pawn if they take your knight. Now the bigger issue might be, oh, you're blundering your queen. Okay, so if your opponent takes your queen, you actually have checkmate in 2 moves, and it's really brilliant how this happens. You have bishop takes f7, and the king only has 1 square on e7, and then your other knight jumps into the center of the board and delivers checkmate. And this is one of the most beautiful checkmates you're going to ever get. It's called the Legal's Mate because this guy named Legal played it for the first time, and it was really just revolutionary. You could give up your queen like this and get a checkmate so early in the game. So yeah, this one's not very common, but if you can pull it off, it feels super sweet. I've pulled it off a few times, and it's an amazing feeling. Alright, this next trap is a trap that you can play as the black pieces, and it usually starts from a really low position, but most commonly it's a low position. And you start with a6, the more people get. White's going to drop their bishop back almost 100% of the time. And you go with d6. White's going to play d4 a lot of the time. And the main elements of this trap are a piece that's on d4 for white, and a bishop that's up in the trap after d5. So at some point you're going to play d5 and not the bishop d3, and that's just where you're going to try to trap the bishop as black. Switches to the black perspective, so it's play this. Black set up the trap with bishop to d7 because you wanted this knight to be able to move, and before it just hits the king to remove it. And white lackadaisically kind of develops their knight. And then black is going to go for b5. Now, you can take here, but most of the time they're going to drop their piece back, and this is a blunder. It looks like just a normal move, but it is actually a blunder because of this amazing sequence. Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, and here you have c5. c5, an excellent move, gaining a tempo on the queen. The queen has to move, or else it's going to be taken. The queen will probably drop back to its original square. And then you play c4, trapping the bishop. The bishop has nowhere to go, can't go back here, it's going to be taken. Has no retreating squares. You're going to be winning a piece here for nothing, and black is winning. Be careful, this always happens with this bishop that is stuck, has restricted squares, and there's going to be a piece in the center of the board that you can play a pawn move and gain a tempo on. So keep out for this trap. This happens a lot, mainly in the Royal Pet. Alright, and the next one is another trap for black, and this one comes from another Italian musician where we've seen so many traps for white. But this one is a trap for black that's Italian, and it's very common. A lot of people don't see it coming, but there's people who specialize in this, and they play this every single game, and they get great results because it's not very common. And it's the Blackburn Shilling Gambit. Now, the Blackburn Shilling Gambit starts in this position. Black is going to play knight to d4, and it's a gambit because black is giving up this pawn immediately. But this pawn is losing because black is going to get a strong attack if white takes this pawn, and white often does take the pawn. So white goes for knight takes e5, and black can go for this really dangerous looking move, queen to g5. Now queen to g5 creates an attack on this g2 pawn as well as the knight. So most players' first idea is to move the knight, and they can actually move the knight here to fork the queen and the rook, and it looks like white is going to win some material here. But black actually has some excellent moves here, and it can lead to a very, very quick checkmate if white doesn't play this accurately. First, black can take on g2, threatening the rook. So if white takes the rook here, black is going to take this rook with check, and it would actually be very close to checkmate in that position because the bishop would have to drop back, and it would just not be good. So we need to stop this threat. So white is usually going to play rook f1 here to defend the rook. And then black plays queen takes e4. And you have to play queen e2 here as white. You're still lost if you play it, but if you play bishop e2, a beautiful checkmate comes in. Knight f3 checkmate. And it's checkmate because the king is on check, he has no squares to go to, so he can't move. And the bishop, yes, is attacking the knight, but the bishop is pinned. If the bishop were to take, the king would be in check, so it's illegal, and this is actually checkmate. This checkmate right here has happened thousands and thousands of times because white just disrespected black's attack. And the free pawn that black gave was totally worth it in the end because black just checkmates the white king in the center of the board. So be careful, black for shilling gambit. And don't get into this position at all. And if you do though, do play queen here. You're going to lose your queen, yes, but you won't lose the game in one move. Alright, so far we've been looking at traps mainly in e4 systems, and now we're going to look at a few traps that are in e4. This one is a trap for black, and it's called the England Gambit. And the England Gambit starts after white plays d4, black is going to play e5. Now the England Gambit is a gambit, and it is not sound. Meaning if your opponent plays the right moves, they can gain an advantage over you as white. But if white makes one wrong move, black can gain a completely decisive advantage and win the game very quickly. So it starts with e5, and white is almost always going to take the pawn. And black attacks the pawn with knight c6. White defends with knight f3. And black attacks the pawn again with queen to e7, a very cryptic looking move. And usually you're not supposed to develop your queen in the beginning of the game, but in this opening you do. So here white, a lot of the time, is going to play this move bishop f4. They don't want to defend their pawn, and they don't really have many other ways to do it. So they play bishop f4. And here, you're going to give this check on b4. And it's a very interesting check. A lot of the times, you can block with the knight, but sometimes they block with the bishop as well. They want to create an attack on the queen here. And here you take the pawn. And here's where the magic happens. This position. It looks like the rook is trapped, and there's no way to defend it. So white finds this move, bishop to c3, which looks amazing, right? You're attacking the queen, and you're defending the rook through the queen. So if the queen takes like this, you take and you have a queen. But black has this amazing looking move. Let's see if you can find it. It's so amazing. I mean, this movie blew my mind when I first saw it. As you can see on the left here, the Eval bar says there's an amazing move for black. Congratulations if you found it. The move is bishop to b4, which looks absolutely astounding. You're leaving your queen hanging, but it's not actually hanging. And why is that? Because of the pin. The bishop is pinned to the king. And it's not really very common that you see a bishop getting pinned by another bishop, but here we are. The queen cannot be taken because of the pin. And white is deep in the orange. White is screwed. White has to play this move queen to d2. And black takes here. And white takes with the queen. Just checkmate like this. And if white takes with the knight, then the rook is hanging. And here, white's gonna have to block with the knight or block with the queen and allow a queen exchange. So black is completely winning as well because of the surplus of this here. So yeah, this is a very, very difficult position to play, right? But if you do play it well, it can give you. So be careful when you play it against black. Don't play against someone who's very well prepared. Alright, and the next trap is another trap for the black pieces against d4. And is called the elephant trap. Now it starts from this queen's gambit position. You're going to play e6, the queen's gambit decline. Opponent plays the most common move, knight c3, and you play knight f6, also the most common move. Now from here, bishop g5 is the most common move. You get that all the time. And you set the trap by playing this move, knight b7. Now, if you look at this position, at first, you might think, hey, this pawn is being attacked twice, and only defended once because this knight is weak. And you cannot move because you lose the queen if you defend it. So a lot of players from the white side play c takes d5 in this position. So black plays e takes d5. Then white will take d7. So I can take this pawn in the center of the board and win a pawn. And this is the fatal mistake. This is the element trap. White has fallen. And so the element trap is calling your opponent's bluff in this position. Knight takes d5. And that knight was defending the pawn. And so white will feel, oh my gosh, I won a queen. So they take the queen. And then brilliant move. Bishop d4 on her. And this position, he has no escape square. The only escape square he has is d7, d2 square, which is being attacked by the bishop. So the only way for white to not be checkmated here is to play queen to d2. And so black will take the queen back. White will take, and black will take, and white is down a piece here. White has won a pawn, exchange for a piece. So black has two knights, and white only has one, and black is going to go on to the game here. Because white completely missed this knight being able to be sacrificed to this capital idea. Or the fact that there's because the argument is out of the game. There's no way for it to block this check. Be careful, you don't go into this one. not going to take the pawn. Most players in this position are going to play king e2. So you're thinking, oh, if you take here, and then you take back, then it's even material. You gave up your bishop, and then they lost their knight, and now it's even material. It's fine for white. But this position is way more nasty than that. After king to e2, instead of promoting to a queen when you take, you're going to promote to a knight. And this is the magic. Because you're promoting with check, your opponent has to respond. And there's no way for them to save this position. If they take with their rook, you have the dynamite move, bishop to g4, delivering a skewer to the king and the queen, and you're going to win the queen here. King goes to f2, bishop takes, and you win the queen. So here, you give a check with the knight, and the best move for black is king to e1, leaving the knight on the board and making sure that this queen is defended, because if you don't play king e1, you will lose your queen as white. And here, black is going to play queen to h4, and this is completely lost for white. White is going to lose no matter what. There's going to be a million ways that white gets checkmated. King has to step over here to e2, and it's just going to be a king hunt in the center of the board. There's a million ways that this goes wrong for whites, and black is completely winning. So yeah, be careful of this Alvin counter gambit, especially when you're playing the queen's gambit as white, because the idea of taking on f2 and distracting the king away from the defense of the queen is a very common one, and it's very easy to fall into. And remember, if you're playing this as the black side, when you promote, make sure you don't have auto promote on if you're playing on chess.com or Leave Chess or something. Make sure you promote to a knight, because promoting to a knight is the best move in this position by a significant margin, and you can guarantee winning material much easier with this move, and your opponent doesn't have to make any more additional stakes, they'll just win. Alright guys, that was 9 chess traps that are really important to know. Some of them you can play from the black side or the white side. Some of them you want to be careful not to fall into from the black side or the white side. Most importantly, just having a knowledge of these traps will allow you to direct the game in the way that you want. If you want to have a very trappy game, you can play for traps, or if you know your opponent is a trappy player, you can play away from those traps. Make sure you don't fall into them. Make sure you get a position that you like and that your opponent doesn't. And that's the key to chess. Get a position that you want. So I hope that you guys really like this video. These traps are super common, and if you remember all of them, or even just remember one of them, you can win some chess games by using them, and you can avoid some losses by learning how to play against them. So I hope you guys have a really good rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See ya!